Hey YouTube, how you guys doing today? Thanks a lot for tuning in. This is a continuance of some of the other videos that we posted. The one that I'm going to be doing today is a video on how to pick out a perfect piece of bow wood. There's a lot of things we're going to cover in this little video right now, but the main point is that you're going to want to make note of these fundamentals because these are pretty much fundamentals. The first thing we want to talk about today is how a bow should look when you're forming it. Now there's there's a lot of different styles of bows, but one of them that we do here at Tradition Bows is a royal stacked bow. Now I'm going to show you a little drawing, pardon the artwork here, it's not that great, but this is, if you were looking down the edge of a bow, okay, from one tip to the end and looking at it straight on, this is what that wood grain would look like. What you want to do is you want to face the bow, which the inside of the wood, the heartwood, facing the shooter, okay, the belly. This is going to be the outside. This curvature out here is going to be facing away from the shooter. Okay, now I bring that up for a couple reasons. You're going to have a lot of problems when you're looking for a piece of wood. The grain is going to be different ways. It might not be, if you're looking at a piece of wood this way, it might be running this way, or it might be slightly off. That's important because you're going to waste a lot of time if you don't, follow principles like having the grain parallel with the way the bow is sitting, like the belly and the face. So if you follow these little things, it's going to help you in the long run because it's going to give you a better bow, better flex, and you're not going to have to spend as much time on the tiller. Okay? Here's another thing I want to talk to you about today, and that is, this is a really crude picture, but this is a section of wood. If you were to cut a tree down, this is it looking inside the wood. You have the grains here, you have a section that's cut out. Now, if you were to do this section right here would be called, what we would call rough stave. Now, stave is pretty much, in essence, it's a section of the wood that has the grain running in all the same direction. You're not cutting where the grains are going this way, you're cutting them where they're going this way, upward. That sounds very confusing, but if you look at the picture, it's pretty, explanatory. The reason you do that is so that you can have the flex of the bow at the same point all the time. It's not going opposite directions. You don't have grain changes and stuff like that, so it gives you flex. That's the way the tree is meant to flex. If there's wind or whatever, that's what keeps it, from being super rigid. The other thing I want to talk to you about today is about grains. The grains and pen knots. Grains and pen knots, we'll talk about grains first. Grains, the depth and width of the grain is what you're wanting to be paying attention to, okay? If you look at how the curvature of the wood is, okay, you're going to notice that those little rings are going to get smaller, which those are called growth rings, and they're also considered grains. Right here, they're smaller, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to look at this. If this was a 2x4, you're going to want to take a look at this bottom ring right here and look up, and you want to see the gap between them. Usually, if you have a piece of wood that has real tight grains on it, that's a great thing. If you don't, it doesn't mean that you can't use it, but it's just going to be a little bit harder to work with. Those grains are going to separate a lot easier. The second thing I want to talk to you about is pen knots. Pen knots show up, and what it is there's a number of reasons why it happens, but for the most part, it is due to the fact that there's been a sprout that sprouted off the tree, and it's changed the grain pattern. So you're going to want to pay attention to that because it's important for you to make note of that. You have to follow the grains no matter which way the bow is going. You have to follow those grains, or else you're going to waste your time. I'll put that as simply as possible. The other thing I want to talk to you about is seasoning. Say you cut down your piece of wood and or you go and buy it at the store. If you buy it at the store, it's mostly kiln drying, which means that they put it into almost like a furnace and they've dried it. Now that's a great thing, but for some people that want to do it old school, traditional, they go in and they actually cut the piece of wood down, they split it, and they quarter saw it, and what they do is they dry it out. They do what's called seasoning, which that means you put the wood in a space that is outside, where it's going to be exposed to climate that's not just inside, 60 degrees, 70 degrees, whatever it may be. That causes the humidity level to kind of balance out, so it becomes, was a living organism. Now it's not an organism that's living, but it's gonna climatize. So what you're going to want to do is, you're going to want to cut the wood. You're going to want to turn it into a stave, like we spoke about. And then the next thing you want to do is you're going to protect the wood. One of the main problems that you have with setting a piece of wood on a shelf and letting it sit out in the open air, under cover, at least, the main thing you're going to have a problem with is the wood will split. It will start separating. At the ends where you cut the wood off, it's going to start separating where those grains are. That's called checking. Well, there's separation and then there's checking. Checking is where you have one that runs parallel with the wood. If you're looking at the grains and they're going like this, that means they cut like this. Okay? So what you're going to want to do is, you're going to want to stick that piece of wood, that stave, into a melted pot of wax. Now, some people are disagreeing on this. Some people use polyurethane, and they polyurethane the whole thing, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a little bit more time consuming. By doing this, you're sealing the moisture in at the end so it's not going to split, which is a great thing because then you're not going to have to worry about it. Okay, so carrying on with what we were saying, one of the other things that we want to do is, we're real big about sharing information like this video that we're doing right now. One of the things that we want to do is recommend some absolute great reading material, and that's the Traditional Bowyer's Bible. It's a section, I believe it's 4 books long. It's a volume of 4 books. And what it does is it goes through every single principle of making a bow. And not only that, but it's been, all the stuff that's pulled out is either historical or through trial and error. These guys have put it out there. It's an excellent resource for information on the topic. I've learned a lot from it, and so has my best friend, Eric. So we want you to check those out. They're not too expensive online. You can probably find them on Amazon.com. But check those out and see what you think, and that will help you out a lot too. We can't make these videos as long as we'd like to. They won't fit. But anyway, so the next thing I want to tell you is we're going to pretty much wrap this video up. We would really, really appreciate it if at the bottom down here, if you could click like or dislike. We really appreciate that. The other thing is we have our own channel. So if you guys want to subscribe, we would absolutely love it. We'd love to have more people on our website and on our channel to give us feedback. So once again, thanks a lot for joining us. We really appreciate it. Take care, guys.